We prep to survive, right? That's the whole point, to get through any type of disaster that might come. And it's not about stockpiling food and water. I mean, partly, but that's not enough. That's not near enough. There's 8 things I need to go through, and please listen to me on these. You're not going to want to hear some of these. In fact, some of these may make you angry because it really gives you a hard check in life. But 8 things that you should never do, ever do, if you want to survive. Number 1, never let emotions get hold. It's actually human nature for people to play on people's emotions. It's terrible, but it's the truth. And when it comes to prepping and preparedness, emotions can never come into play. I mean, granted, you may see a news headline or possibly a YouTube thumbnail, which will kind of like invoke a little bit of fear, and that's okay. But you need to have a level head as you prep. Always think consciously what you need to do in your next move and not jump into fear and making that as a motivator to basically handle all your actions. Because, long story short, if you have fear in your life, you're pretty much always going to make the wrong choice. Number 2, never assume you know. I've been around the block a time or 2, or 3 or 4. I'm sure a lot of you have as well. And I have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge up my noggin. A lot of it came from college. A lot of it came from School of Hard Knocks and experience. But nevertheless, I want you to understand that even with that being said, I always try to look at things humbly, with humility. If somebody comes up to me and says, I know you're a doctor, I know you're a specialist in this, I know you're an expert in this, but have you considered this? And I'll always step back and say, maybe. And I'll look at it and research it to see if it's true or not. It's important we all do this, no matter how much you know or how much you don't know. I get emails on occasion on the channel from people who think they know better, and they'll basically confront me on something. And again, that's fine. Go ahead and confront me. I will think about it and say, are you right or wrong? And I'll try to research it. But even if I come up with the evidence, say, no, you're wrong, and here's why, they still don't have that humility. Understand, this is a fight for our lives, a fight of survival. This is not the time to have that pride and say, oh, look, I know better. We all should step back and say, I need more knowledge and information, and we can reason together. That's what we do, right? As people, as a community, we work together to try to find out what's true or not, because the goal of this prize is survival. Number 3, never get weapons. Do you hear me? I'm not kidding you. Never get a weapon unless you plan to train with that weapon. This is so, so important because, simply put, at the very least, if you don't know how to use that weapon, it's just a tool. Don't know what you're doing. You're not going to survive because of that. But even more importantly, in martial arts, I'm trained and I teach how to take someone's firearm from them. You have a firearm, I'm going to take it out of your hands and probably use it against you. And I've had people on the channel, same thing, confronting me and saying, oh, there's no way you could ever do that. And with you, that's probably true. Because when you train with a firearm, you always train to keep your distance from the person that you're basically aiming at. You know what I'm saying? But look on YouTube, do a little search. You'll find the majority of people who've never been trained will get right next to someone with their firearm. And guess what? Your firearm has now become my firearm. And I don't want the same thing to happen to you, because you think, not you, but people think in general, that I have a firearm that's going to protect me in case crap hits the fan. No, you have just given that weapon to somebody else, and it very well is now going to cost you your life. So make sure you train in these weapons. Just having a weapon, having a tool will do nothing if you don't know how to use it correctly. Number 4, never be an armchair expert. And listen, if you want to be an armchair expert, basically just stockpile your rice and beans, your food and water, and sit in your armchair all day long watching videos on how to prepare. It's your choice. I'm not going to come through the TV and grab you and basically shake you up and say, get to work. Because listen, all I can do is give you out the information. If you use the information correctly, that's great. But if you don't, your life will depend on this. Because understand, when it comes to this whole thing about prepping and understanding what we need to do to prepare for the future, you will never be prepared if you don't actually truly experience what needs to be done. All the time, we shut off our power. A lot of times we lose our power, or we go camping, or we use some of our prepper supplies. That's just like the tip of the iceberg. Because understand this, and I'm sure you know this example. You'll find somebody who really excelled and did very well in college, went to college for 20 years, got all these majors and degrees and everything. And we'll call those people sometimes book smart. You are so book smart. You have all that knowledge. But when it comes to actually doing anything truly savvy in the world, they can't do anything. That's because they don't have any of the actual experience. If they took that college and went with the experience, but some people actually have the experience with no college and they'll actually fare better, because having true hands-on experience is what's going to save you. not simply just watching videos on YouTube or reading a book or talking with friends. It's truly mastering these skills is the only thing that's going to get you past this. Number 5, never get on bandwagons ever. I think you know people are full of fear. In fact, a lot of people will come into prepping, this whole world of prepping, because of fear. I mean, some people say, wow, look at the world's going. It's not like what it was when I was growing up. And I get that. But some people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared that all this is going to happen. I don't know how to prepare. So they come into the prepping world and off they go. But bandwagons are very dangerous. And I'm not saying there isn't sometimes a bandwagon that is a true one you should be on because, it really is something that makes people's lives better. Okay. But most bandwagons, by the way, are simply just, ready, the blind leading the blind. Because people don't know about how to react in a specific area. So people will start walking on that path. Other people who don't know will see them and say, well, obviously they must be right because they're going that direction. I'll follow along. And next thing you know, you have a huge group of people all heading like off of a cliff, right? That's basically how life works. And I see this even more so in the prepping community because I put out information that is real, practical information like on nuclear, for example, or EMPs. But there's a lot of wives' tales out there. The wives' tales are these bandwagons like, oh, if an EMP hits, my phone will never work again. That's not true. Or if an EMP hits, I'll never be able to start my brand new car again. That's not true either. All those things are simply bandwagons. We need to know truth. The truth and the knowledge will make it so you survive this. So don't jump on bandwagons. Somebody tells you some kind of fact that your car will never start after an EMP. Do the research yourself and figure it out. Don't jump in the bandwagon like everybody else does and simply fall for this false information. Number 6, never stop improving. In my family, the way we lead our lives is once you stop improving, you die. And I'm not saying you can't take a break now and then, but our whole goal and job in life is to always, 100% always better ourselves. Real quick, in the comments, how many of you are like that? Because I've had a lot of people just simply go with the status quo, and this is my life, I just live it. And I'm not like that. I always have to excel, and learn more in knowledge and have more experiences. I mean, even this weekend, I'm going to fly a helicopter for the first time. Very excited about this. It's always improving yourself. I mean, will the role of ever flying a helicopter come to save me? Probably not. But it's always about improving ourselves. In fact, I've heard stats, I don't know if they're true or not, this could be completely made up, but that once somebody retires, they usually die with in 5 years. Have you ever heard that before? Again, it's probably not true. But it's one of those things where even if it is, even if you don't die because if you're not improving yourself, your life sometimes may as well be over. I mean, if you really have the outlook of, well, I never want to improve anymore. I just love sitting in my garden pruning roses all the time, to each their own. But I find that the people, when they stop growing and stop improving and stop the challenges in their lives and never actually go further to the next level, from my experience, are the ones who usually have a more depressed life. They just don't have any basically thing they really enjoy. That's just how I see it. You may see it differently. But anyways, improving, especially when it comes to prepping and preparedness, is key to survival. Number 7, never make excuses. And there's a big difference between reasons and excuses. And people don't understand this concept typically anyway. In one of the martial arts schools I attended in the past, this was a very favorite saying of one of my instructors, the head instructor of the school. He'd always say, listen, we have reasons, but we don't have excuses. Let me give you some examples, and I want you to see this because understanding how you react to things all depends on your outlook and is it a reason or is it an excuse? Like, for example, I will model a solar generator or talk about a solar generator will power my whole house. It's a great thing. And people will say, oh my gosh, I can't afford that. And they even know it's kind of like the connotation seems angry, like, how dare you talk about this? And that's probably true. That's probably true. You don't have enough money to buy it. That's a reason you don't have it. But is it an excuse to not have one? I guess it depends what you need, right? Or I'll talk about physical fitness. And, of course, one of my loves, and you see the medals up there, are martial arts. I love martial arts. Love it, love, love it. And people will say, I'm fill in the blank. I'm 80 years old and I could never do martial arts. Well, is that a reason or an excuse? Because honestly, when I go to the world champions, the world tournaments, I love visiting the 80-year-old ring. And granted, you go to the ring that has 20-year-olds and it's unbelievable how many people were competing for a world title. I mean, there's only so many at the title itself, but when you go to the 80-year-old ring, there's a bunch in there too. And I understand some people literally, physically, maybe they're in a wheelchair and they can't get up and do martial arts. I get that. I get that. But what I want people to do is always think about this. Is this just a reason why you're not doing it? Or are you excused from doing this? Because let me put it this way. Here's an example. If I say, hey guys, I think you need to start running, going jogging for a living. Okay, I know it's weird. If you go to an 80-year-old who can't walk very well, he may say, I can't do it because I'm 80, but he's just making an excuse because there are some 80-year-olds who can run. But then if I come across a paraplegic 80-year-old, he has a very good reason he can never run physically, and that's an excuse too. My point being is this. It comes down to this, and this I want this to hit home, but obviously not insult anybody. Anytime you try to think of basically what you can do and can't do, I want you to think about, well, am I just thinking about a reason for this, or is there truly an excuse? And here's my example. That same instructor who taught me this, gave me this martial arts lesson, not even about martial arts, but about life, the reasons and excuses. He explained this to me. And I went to a tournament, we're talking about 12 years ago, and I was going against this guy who was huge. And my kicks were not that good. I was not a black belt at the time, and I kicked him and I broke my foot. And it took me out of training for 6 weeks. Very painful. It's one of those things where I still wince when I think about my foot breaking. I still sparred other people and won, which is kind of cool with a broken foot. It's like a Karate Kid thing, right? But then when I went back into training 6 months later, I broke my foot again right away. And guess what my excuse was? My excuse was, I'm getting too old for martial arts. 12 years ago. 12 years ago. I was in my 40s. So my reason was I broke my foot, but I made that my excuse to get out of martial arts. Now here I am, 12 years later. I haven't broke my foot again because I'm doing it correctly. So I really didn't have an excuse. I had a reason for getting out of it, but that didn't really excuse me from getting into martial arts and getting physically fit. Not that I'm like the shining perfection of physically fit. I'm not. But I should not let certain things try to stop me because my mind simply says I'm too old for it, for example. What are your reasons and excuses of something that you're not getting into? Like, for example, there's no way I can afford a solar generator. They're too expensive. That's a reason. But is it your excuse? Can you try to do something to make more money to buy it, or get a side hustle job, or sell some items, whatever? If it's important enough to you, then don't make an excuse, is the moral of the story. And number 8, never give up. You ever seen the movie Galaxy Quest? One of the favorite taglines of the captain on there is, never give up, never surrender. I love that movie. It's just super funny. Nice parody on Star Trek type things. But basically, never giving up is the key into so many things in life. And I think it really encompasses a lot of the stuff in this entire video too. We are, as human race, are easy to give up on things. And when it comes to challenges are always frowned upon. Oh, I hate challenges. What a horrible thing. But you will never grow unless you're challenged. But even more importantly, you'll never grow unless you live up to that challenge. I have a family member, which I'll never mention her name, obviously. It's not about embarrassing someone, but her whole life is full of never having challenges. And anytime a challenge presents herself, it's like instinctively she wants to have that challenge. So I volunteer. I will accept this challenge. And give it a day or two, and she'll always give up and say, I can't do this, I can't do this. And over time, it has become ingrained in her head that, yeah, you'll never do anything, because anytime a challenge presents itself, you always give up, which makes it so you give up even more. It is one of those like self-fulfilling prophecies that will continue until finally you step up to that challenge. I say the same thing to my students in martial arts. They'll say, I can't do this, I can't do this. I'll say, of course you can. It's just a matter of what you need to put into it. You need to work at it and practice, etc. But don't look at challenges being a hurdle, an obstacle, something that's going to stop you. A challenge is an opportunity to grow. It's always to make it better. So never give up on your challenges, because when it comes to prepping and preparedness, that's the whole key. You give up on this, crap hits the fan, you die. You can't give up. And literally this whole sense of being defeated, I'm always defeated on stuff, comes down to basically giving up. Don't do that, because you will be defeated. You just defeated yourself. And I know it's hard to motivate ourselves sometimes to live up to challenges, but it's what we have to do. All right, there you go, everybody. There's 8 things. Never do these things. Never, never, never. Because it's a lot more than simply just stockpiling food and water. It's about surviving. That's the key to this. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.